Military Science of Wei Liao Zi. Translation at Commentary Sami Heikkinen. Introduction. The Wei Liao Zi, one of the 7 military classics of ancient China, is a text on military strategy written during the Warring States period, lasting from around 475 BCE to 221 BCE. The work is named after Wei Liao, who is said to have either been a student of Lord Shang or an important advisor during the Qin Dynasty. However, there is little evidence to support either view. The Wei Liao Zi promotes both a civil and military approach to governance, and highlights the significance of agriculture and people as the state's most valuable resources. Additionally, it advocates for a government that follows humanistic values in line with Confucianism and maintains that the ruler should be a model of virtue, while deviance from this standard or values that could harm the state should be met with severe punishment. Chapter 1, Divine Powers. When Emperor Hui of the Liang dynasty asked Wei Liao Zi, "Does Huang Di have a way to win 100 battles with punishments and virtues?" Wei Liao Zi replied, "Punishments are used to attack and virtues are used to defend." This is not the same as saying that the heavenly officers will take turns in the day and night. Huang Di is simply a man of affairs. Explanation: Wei Liao Zi teaches that winning battles is not dependent on fate or the actions of supernatural beings. The leader, Huang Di, is the one who makes decisions and takes actions to achieve victory. Now, there is a city that cannot be taken from the east or west, or from the north or south. Is there not a way to take it at the right time? The reason why it cannot be taken is because the city wall is high and the moat is deep, its weapons and equipment are well prepared, and its supplies and grain are abundant. If the city is weakly defended and the moat is shallow, then it can be taken. From this point of view, it can be seen that the actions of heavenly officers and the passage of time are not as important as human affairs. Explanation: even a well-defended city can be taken with the right tactics. Human efforts are more effective than relying on fate or divine intervention. According to the heavenly official, positioning an army behind a river is akin to having them on safe ground, while positioning them facing a mountain is like having them lay down their weapons. When King Wu of Ju attacked King Ju of Shang, he positioned his army with the Ji River at their backs and the mountains in front, with only 22,500 men. He defeated King Ju's army of 100,000 and destroyed the Shang dynasty. Is this not a victory that defies the predictions of the heavenly officers? Explanation: this emphasizes the idea that even a small force can overcome a much larger one if it has superior tactics and strategy. When the general of Chu, Gongzi Xin, was about to battle with the people of Qi, a comet suddenly appeared with its tail pointing towards Qi. According to this sign, it was impossible for them to win, so Gongzi Xin said, "What does the comet know? It is certain that those who fight with a comet will be defeated." The next day, he fought with the people of Qi and achieved a great victory. Explanation: Gongzi Xin, a general of Chu, disregarded a comet that appeared with its tail pointing towards his enemies, the people of Qi, as a bad omen, and instead relied on his own strategy to defeat them in battle. Chapter 2, Military Matters. To measure the fertile land and establish a city, build the city according to the land, use the city to govern the people, and use the people to produce grains. When these 3 aspects are in harmony, one can defend the city internally and conquer enemies externally. To win battles outside and prepare for defense inside, utilizing both, is like coordinating with musical notes. There is no difference. Explanation: in order to successfully defend a city and achieve victory in battle, it is necessary to have harmony between the land, the people, and the resources available. A commander of an army should keep his strategies secret, as if hidden in the earth and as deep as the sky. They should be born out of nothingness, and thus keep them hidden. They should not be too big or too small, and be clear about their plans for fortifications and how to control the flow of people. Individuals who are not committed to the best interests of the country should not be appointed to positions of authority. When the land is vast and the appointments are good, the country will be rich and the people will be content. When the country is rich and well governed, the people will not be rebellious and armor will not be worn, thus the ruler's authority will be established throughout the land. Thus it is said, victory in war comes from the court. Victory without rebellion or military is victory for the ruler, victory on the battlefield is victory for the general. Explanation: a commander should keep their strategies secret, clear and appropriate. A ruler should avoid appointing those not committed to the country's best interests, to achieve a successful and prosperous country. When the army is mobilized, it should not be done out of anger. When victory is in sight, one should press forward, and when there is no hope of victory, one should withdraw. If the enemy is within 100 miles, the army should mobilize within a day, if within 1,000 miles, within a month, and if within the 4 seas, within a year. Explanation: when mobilizing the army, one should act strategically and withdraw if victory is unlikely. The army should mobilize quickly based on the proximity of the enemy. A commander should not be subject to the heavens, nor to the earth, nor to the people. He should not easily become angry or corrupt himself with money. It is difficult to lead a group of people who are impulsive, blind, and deaf. Explanation: a strategic leader must be able to make decisions based on the situation, not emotions, and lead a challenging group. Wherever the army goes, they can be victorious with just a bowstring and arrow, whether it is a soar, at the foot of a mountain, or in valleys. They can be victorious in any formation, whether it is a square or in a line. Heavy forces, like mountains, forests, rivers, and seas, keep the enemy in place. Light forces, like a barrage of arrows, fire, and a wall of shields, cover them like clouds. This makes it difficult for the enemy to gather and impossible to scatter, to move left or right. The soldiers are as solid as tree trunks, and their bows and arrows are like horns of a goat. With everyone's spirits lifted, there is no hesitation or doubt, and they act with determination. Explanation: the army's versatility and ability to adapt to different situations allows them to emerge victorious, through the use of both heavy and light forces. The soldiers should possess high morale and be resolved in their actions, eliminating any hesitation or doubt. Chapter 3: Discussion on Controls. An army's effectiveness depends on having a clear strategy in place. When strategy is established, soldiers will not be disorganized and their formation will be clear. Upon the sound of war drums, 100 soldiers will fight as one. In the chaos of broken enemy formation, 1,000 soldiers will fight as one. When the entire army is united to kill the enemy's leaders, 10,000 soldiers will fight with one sword. No one in the world can stand against such a battle. Explanation: an effective army requires a clear strategy that keeps soldiers organized and united, allowing them to fight as one in any situation, making them unbeatable. In ancient times, the warrior class had 4 ranks and the chariots were arranged in an orderly formation. The drums and flag signified the orders, and the ones who advanced first were usually brave warriors. Likewise, the ones who died first were also brave warriors. Explanation: in the past, brave warriors often lead the charge and were also the first to die. Destroy the enemy and you may lose 100 of your own, the damage done to the enemy is immense and cannot be restrained. If the enemy divides their forces and runs away or retreats before battle, the damage is also great and cannot be restrained. Killing someone with bows and arrows from 100 steps away, killing someone with spears and halberds from 50 steps away. If the commander allows the troops to be noisy and disorderly, to break spears, hug halberds, and still attack when the opportunity arises, then it will lead to self-defeat and cannot be restrained. When soldiers have lost their formation, when chariots are out of line, when weapons are abandoned and the troops run away, the masses will also follow suit, and this cannot be restrained. If the commander can restrain these 4 things, then they can conquer high mountains, cross deep rivers, and break through strong fortifications. If they cannot restrain these 4 things, then it is as if they are sinking boats and cutting off rivers, and there is no way forward. Explanation: if the commander can maintain control and discipline, they will be able to conquer and defeat the enemy. People do not want to die and dislike suffering. By issuing clear commands, enforcing laws and regulations, and rewarding good behavior before punishing bad behavior, leaders can encourage their followers to do their best. This will lead to benefits for those in the middle and recognition for those who take action. Explanation: this passage emphasizes the importance of clear commands and strict laws and regulations, as well as the importance of rewards and punishments to motivate people. By assigning one officer to lead 100 soldiers, one commander to lead 1,000, and one general to lead 10,000, we can use the few to control the many and the weak to control the strong. Trust in my strategy, it will effectively lead the 3 armies without any fear of executing one person, even if it is a father or son. It will greatly benefit the country and its people. Explanation: effective command structure ensures success, a single strong person cannot hinder progress, ultimately benefiting the country. When a bandit wields a sword in a market, causing all the people to flee, it is not just the bandit's bravery that is at play. Instead, it is the cowardice of the people that allows the bandit to cause such chaos. To address this, soldiers must be made to understand that death is an inevitable part of war and that there is no escape. This understanding will enable them to take on the bandit alone, without fear. Soldiers who can capture the bandit alone are true soldiers of the king. Explanation: soldiers must understand death is inevitable in war and they should act without fear. There was someone who could lead 90,000 troops and no one in the world dared to oppose them. Who was it? Huan Gong. There was someone who could lead 70,000 troops and no one in the world dared to oppose them. Who was it? Wu Qi. There was someone who could lead 30,000 troops and no one in the world dared to oppose them. Who was it? Wu Zi. Nowadays, all the scholars in the world can lead at least 200,000 troops, but they cannot achieve military success. This is due to their lack of understanding of the rules of war. If one person understands the rules, then 10 people can be victorious. If 10 people understand the rules, then 100,000 or even millions of people can be victorious. Thus it is said, be prepared with your equipment, cultivate your martial prowess, and launch your attack like a bird swooping down or descending into a deep chasm. Explanation: this passage is referring to 3 famous generals in ancient China. It is saying that if one understands the rules of war and strategy, then they will be able to lead an army to victory regardless of its size. It also implies that having a good understanding of warfare is essential for achieving success in battle. The current country is plagued by problems. It hires people with heavy coins, exchanges its children for hostages, and surrenders its territory to gain the support of the world. In the end, it only has tens of thousands of soldiers, but in reality, it only has a few thousand. The soldiers who come to fight all say to the commander, "Fight first for the people, don't wait for the enemy." But in reality, it is not possible to fight. Explanation: the country is plagued by problems and resorting to desperate measures. Despite these efforts, the country only has a few thousand soldiers and not fit for war. Assessing the citizens within my realm, there is a lack of righteousness among them. The laws are set up for a large population, yet the king forces them to conform to a single standard of clothing and food. In battle, if we do not succeed or cannot defend ourselves, it is not the fault of our people but rather our own internal weaknesses. Even though other nations may assist us in battle, they are like a good horse and its faithful companion, but they cannot ensure our long-term success. Explanation: having a strong internal foundation and a population that is righteous is crucial for success in defense and warfare. External assistance can only provide temporary help, and ultimately, the effectiveness of a country relies on the strength and unity of its own people and leadership. I utilize the methods and practices of the world to govern my own, creating systems and laws that guide and regulate the actions of my subjects. I issue commands and regulations, clearly defining punishments and rewards, ensuring that farmers can secure their livelihoods and warriors can earn their honors. This motivates the people to strive and compete, making my nation unassailable. As such, it is said, issue commands and enforce them, trust will be established within the nation. Explanation: the key to maintaining a strong and powerful nation is to provide opportunities for citizens to strive and compete, such as through farming and warfare. By implementing these strategies, the nation will become unbeatable. People may say they have a way to defeat the enemy, but do not let their empty words deceive you. Test them in battle to see if they can fight. Explanation: test one's ability instead of relying on words alone. If a country acquires land by looking at the land of others and breeds its population by looking at the people of others, there must be capable people within. If it doesn't have its own talents but still wants to rule the world, it will inevitably kill its own commanders. In this way, although it may win wars, the country will become weaker and weaker, and the acquisition of land will make the country poorer and poorer, due to the corruption in the country. Explanation: a country that relies on copying others will inevitably become weaker, due to a lack of capable leaders and corruption. Chapter 4: Military Might. In warfare, there are 3 ways to defeat the enemy: by strategy, by intimidation, and by force. By understanding the enemy's tactics and causing their morale to falter, their army will scatter even though they may still be strong. This is victory through strategy. By having clear laws and regulations, and by imposing appropriate rewards and punishments, and by making use of the right tools, the people will be eager to fight. This is victory through intimidation. By breaking the enemy's army, killing their leaders, taking advantage of opportunities, capturing territory, and then successfully withdrawing, this is victory through force. A successful ruler should master all three strategies in order to be victorious. Explanation: in warfare, there are three ways to defeat the enemy: by strategy, by intimidation, and by force. A successful ruler should master all three strategies in order to be victorious. The commander is the one who leads the people to battle, and the people are the ones who fight with spirit. If the spirit is strong, they will fight; if it is taken away, they will flee. Explanation: this passage emphasizes the importance of morale in warfare. A commander must be able to inspire his troops. Before any military action is taken, there are 5 strategies to defeat the enemy: 1. By using superior tactics and strategy; 2. By winning over allies and gaining control of the enemy's command structure; 3. By exploiting the enemy's natural weaknesses in their defenses; 4. By building fortifications and defenses; and 5. By deploying troops effectively and maintaining discipline. These strategies involve anticipating the enemy's moves and exploiting their weaknesses. Explanation: there are 5 strategies for winning a war without engaging in combat. A victory can be achieved through clever schemes, using natural defenses, and maintaining discipline among troops. Good military commanders can take from people without taking from them. Taking is the motivation of the heart, and commanding involves the hearts of the masses. A leader who does not have the support of the masses will not be able to maintain control of the troops, and the troops will not follow their orders. Explanation: an effective command requires the trust of the public. The chain of command should be clear and without ambiguity. If the orders from above are without doubt, then the men will not have doubts about the tasks. If the tasks are without doubt, then the people will not have conflicting intentions about them. No one can achieve success without conviction in their hearts, and one is willing to die in battle without full commitment to their cause. Explanation: a clear chain of command and clear orders are necessary for the troops to have a unified purpose and belief. A country must uphold the values of ritual, trust, affection, and love in order to ensure its citizens are well fed. Similarly, a country must nurture the customs of filial piety, kindness, integrity, and shame in order to ensure its citizens are well cared for. In ancient times, leaders effectively guided their people by prioritizing the importance of ritual and trust, followed by honors and wealth. They emphasized the importance of integrity and shame before punishment and penalties, and prioritized affection and love before regulating their own conduct. Explanation: a country must have virtues such as ritual, trust, affection, and love in order to be prosperous, and customs such as filial piety, kindness, integrity, and shame in order to survive. The commander must lead by example to inspire their soldiers, just as the mind directs the limbs. If the commander does not have a strong will, then the soldiers will lack motivation and discipline, and without motivation and discipline, the army cannot fight. Explanation: without the leadership of commander in leading his soldiers into battle, the soldiers will not have the necessary discipline and motivation to fight. The way to motivate soldiers and ensure the well-being of the people is to consider their livelihoods and make clear the ranks and orders of nobility, as well as the relationships between those in death and mourning. It is important to base regulations on the lives of the people and make their livelihoods a priority, including the realities of farming, the connections formed through food and drink, and providing support in times of death and mourning, as well as in military service. These actions will be the motivation for the people. Explanation: regulations should be based on the needs of the people, and their livelihood should be made a priority. This includes providing for their basic needs such as food and shelter, as well as emotional support and companionship during times of grief and military service. Treat the soldiers like family members and their commanders like friends. Stop like a wall and move like wind and rain, with the wheels not getting stuck and the soldiers not stepping on each other. This is the foundation of the art of war. Explanation: in order to be successful in battle, an army must have strong bonds between its members, like those of family and friends. The land sustains the people, cities protect the land, and wars protect the cities. Therefore, those who work in agriculture will not experience hunger, those who guard will not experience danger, and those who fight will not experience siege. These three tasks were the fundamental duties of ancient kings, and among them, military affairs were the most urgent. Explanation: the land provides for the people, cities safeguard the land, and wars safeguard cities. Agriculture, defense, and warfare were the primary responsibilities of ancient rulers. The ancient kings were focused on the military, and there were 5 key areas they focused on. If supplies were not sufficient, the soldiers would not be able to march. If rewards and salaries were not generous, the people would not be motivated. If warriors were not selected carefully, the troops would not be strong. If equipment was not convenient, the troops' strength would not be vigorous. If punishment was not appropriate, the people would not fear. By focusing on these 5 areas, the ancient kings were able to maintain stability and achieve their goals in actions. Explanation: a successful military force requires sufficient resources, generous rewards, well-selected warriors, convenient equipment, and appropriate punishments in order to be successful. When planning to attack from a defensive position, it's important to make the position secure, the formation solid, the execution of the attack thorough, and the battle well coordinated. Explanation: before attacking, fortify your defensive position. In a wealthy kingdom, the people prosper; in a wealthy vassal state, the warriors thrive; in a carefully managed kingdom, the great officers flourish. However, in a dying kingdom, only the food stores benefit. This is known as an overflowing upper class and a leaking lower class, and there is no way to remedy it. Explanation: when the kingdom is top-heavy, but not providing for those at the bottom, then it will eventually fail. It is said, appoint the capable and achieve success without waiting for a propitious day, make clear laws to judge cases and obtain good results without divination, honor merit, reward labor and receive blessings without offering sacrifices. It is also said, heavenly timing is not as good as earthly advantages are not as good as human harmony. What the wise value lies in human affairs. Explanation: appointing capable individuals, implementing clear laws, and honoring merit and hard work are more important than waiting for a good time or relying on divination and sacrifices for success. A diligent commander will always lead by example. He will not seek shelter from the heat, nor pile on extra clothing during the cold. He will bravely set foot in danger first and will drink only after the army's wells are complete. He will eat only after the army's food is cooked and rest only after the camp is completed. He will share the same hardships as his soldiers. In this way, the army may remain in battle for a long time without growing old or weary. Explanation: soldiers are led by the example set by the commander. Chapter 5: Offensive Capabilities. Soldiers win by being still, and nations by uniting. Explanation: this proverb suggests that the way to win a battle is to maintain a strong defense, while the way to achieve victory in a nation is to have everyone working together in unity. Those who lack unity in their strength are weak, and those with doubts in their hearts will falter. Those with weak strength will lack boldness in advancing and retreating, and will not be able to take over their enemies, causing disunity among their officers and soldiers. Those with doubts in their hearts will be indecisive in their plans and hesitant in their actions, speaking insincerely. Their leaders will lack discipline and their soldiers will lack consistency, resulting in their defeat. They are known as the army of the sick and the weak. It is not a match for others in battle. Explanation: if a military force is not well trained or disciplined, it will not be able to perform well in battle. The commander is the heart, and the troops are the limbs and joints. When the commander's heart moves with sincerity, the limbs and joints will strive to their utmost. When the commander's heart is filled with doubt, the limbs and joints will be in disarray. If the commander does not have a strong heart and the troops are not well coordinated, even if they win, it is not because of their strength. Explanation: this passage emphasizes the importance of trust and communication between the commander and the troops. Without a strong command and coordination, the army cannot rely on their strength alone to win battles, but must also have faith that their leader will make the right decisions. People fear 2 things, being disrespected by us and being disrespected by the enemy. When we see humiliation, defeat follows; when we establish prestige, victory follows. Therefore, those who understand the way of victory must first understand the power of respect and humiliation. Explanation: understanding the power of respect and humiliation is key to achieving victory in battle. Those who do not please my heart, I do not use; those who do not fear my heart, I do not promote. Love is to follow, authority is to lead. Love and authority cannot conflict with each other. Therefore, a good leader only needs love and authority. Explanation: a leader should only use and promote those who are both loved and feared. War cannot be won through words alone, victory cannot be achieved through attack alone. Otherwise, even if the punishments and rewards are not enough to inspire loyalty, trust is established before the battle, and actions are taken before signs of danger. Therefore, when the army has been gathered, they should not disperse in vain, soldiers should not return without a fight. When seeking out enemies, it is as important as finding a lost child. When attacking the enemy, it is like saving someone from drowning. Explanation: the key to winning a war is not only in speaking but also in action. A strong leader must inspire loyalty, trust, and readiness to fight, and not be afraid to pursue the enemy relentlessly. Those who are afraid of danger lack fighting spirit, those who are overly aggressive lack full energy, and those who engage in battles without a plan lack a victorious army. Those who fight for justice should be valued, while those who fight for personal gain or grudges should be avoided. Even if grudges arise, they should be put aside and dealt with later. Therefore, one must prepare for both conflict and peace. Explanation: those who are fighting for a cause should be respected, while those who are fighting for personal gain or grudges should only do so out of necessity. Military might is stronger than court authority, stronger than the countryside, and stronger than the marketplaces. When in battle, victory can be achieved through force, but if you overuse it you will lose. Being lucky enough to not be defeated is a bending victory. A bending victory does not mean a total victory. One who does not have the total victory will not have the power and reputation. A wise ruler is always prepared for war, they strategize and train daily, use all resources at their disposal and aim not for victory but to be victorious. Explanation: military power is key to victory, but overuse will lead to defeat. Wise rulers prepare for war constantly, strategize, train, use all resources and aim for victory. A victorious army must have a well-organized structure and strict discipline in order to be successful. There must be a clear division of labor, efficient coordination, and effective leadership. Therefore, 5 people form a squad, 10 people form a section, 100 people form a company, 1,000 people form a regiment, and 10,000 people form an army. This structure is necessary for the orderly command and control of the troops. Before any military action is taken, the commander must assess the enemy situation and then give the order to mobilize the troops. Explanation: a victorious army must have a well-organized structure, strict discipline, clear division of labor, efficient coordination, and effective leadership. Commanders must assess the enemy situation before any military action is taken. When mobilizing an army, those who are 1,000 miles away should be mobilized within 10 days. And those who are 100 miles away should be mobilized within 1 day. The troops must gather at the enemy's territory in order to gain a strategic advantage. As the troops gather, they must enter the enemy's land, block off their roads, and occupy their large cities and towns, forcing them to climb up the walls and feel the pressure. The men and women must be counted, and the terrain must be analyzed. The key fortresses should be targeted first, as they are the key to controlling the area. By taking one city or town, blocking off multiple roads, and then attacking, the enemy's commanders will not be able to trust each other, and their officials and soldiers will not be able to cooperate. If this is not followed, then our defeat is certain. Enemy reinforcement hasn't arrived yet, but one city has already surrendered. Explanation: an efficient mobilization plan is crucial for an army, with troops gathering at the enemy's territory and occupying key fortresses and cities to gain a strategic advantage. If the bridges have not been built, the fortresses have not been repaired, the defenses of the city have not been set up, and the canals and moats have not been constructed, then even if there is a city, it will not be protected. If the distant fortifications have not been visited, the sentries have not returned, even if there are people, there is no one to guard them. The 6 domestic animals have not been gathered, the 5 grains have not been harvested, and the resources have not been collected, then even if there are resources, there is no one using it. Therefore, when a city or town is empty but has resources, I will take advantage of this emptiness and attack it. This is what is known as attacking without engaging in battle. Explanation: the strategy is to exploit the enemy's lack of preparedness and attack without engaging in battle. Chapter 6: Staying in Power. The defender, who does not retreat to the fortress or block the gate, is not a good fighter. brave and strong soldiers, strong armor and weapons, strong crossbows and arrows, all these should be kept within the fortification. Harvest should be gathered and the earth before the advancing enemy scorched, making the enemy's morale decrease 10 or 100-fold, while our own morale will not decrease by half. If the enemy were to attack, they would be badly hurt, but defenders' defeat would remain unknown. Explanation: this passage emphasizes the importance of defensive strategies in warfare. By building fortresses, defenders are able to protect their resources and increase morale while decreasing the enemy's morale. Furthermore, if the enemy attacks, it will suffer great damage, but this will often go unnoticed. A defender must maintain their advantage by following established rules and protocols. A well-fortified city requires only 10 people to guard each 100 feet of wall, and they do not need to be provided for in terms of food or labor. A well-organized defense system allows for a small number of defenders to effectively protect the city, with one person able to replace 10, 10 able to replace 100, and so on. Building and fortifying a city is the primary responsibility of the defender, and does not require the mobilization of the people or significant expenditure of resources. It is the defender's true duty. Explanation: a defender must follow established rules and protocols to maintain an advantage. A well-fortified city requires only a small number of guards and does not require resources from the people. Building and fortifying a city is the defender's primary responsibility. The city of 10,000 feet wide shall be guarded by 10,000 people. The moat is deep and wide, the walls are strong and thick, the soldiers and citizens are prepared, firewood and food are supplied, bows and arrows ready, spears and halberds in order. This is the method of defense. Explanation: this passage emphasizes the need for a well-prepared defenses to protect a city from attack. It outlines the necessary components, including the need for an adequate number of personnel, supplies, and weapons. If the attacker does not have an army of more than 100,000, and there are reinforcements coming, then there is a city that must be defended. If there are no reinforcements, then there is no city to defend it. Explanation: if there are no reinforcements coming, then defending the city is hopeless. If a city is strong and its defense is sincere, then even the foolish men and women will not abandon the city, and contribute to defending it. A city that can withstand a year of siege needs to have enough supplies for both the inhabitants and the defenders. But if a city is strong but its defense is not sincere, then the foolish men and women will not defend the walls and will instead weep and wail. This is the usual behavior of people, and even if they are comforted and taken care of, they will not be able to stop. The only way to stop this is to rally the brave and strong, arm them with strong armor and weapons, and send them to the front lines while keeping the weak and sickly in the back. Explanation: a strong defense requires not only a well-fortified city, but also a unified and motivated population. An army of 100,000 will be stuck at the city gates, and if they want to take it, they will have to breach it, and if they want to defend it, they will have to come forward. If you take control of the fortress, you must secure the defenses and ensure that the supply lines remain open and that the inside and outside forces support each other. Explanation: both sides should focus on securing key strategic positions and maintaining open lines of communication and support. If the defense is not sincere, it will show, and the enemy will take advantage of it. If the strong are at the back and the old are at the front, the enemy will have no front, and the defenders will not be able to hold out. This is called the strategy of defending with authority. Explanation: if the defense is not sincere, it will be obvious to the enemy, and they will take advantage of it. Chapter 7, 12 Cornerstones. Power lies in consistency, benefit lies in adapting to the times, opportunity lies in responding to affairs, war lies in managing morale, attack lies in expressing intention, defense lies in external embellishment, avoiding mistakes lies in measuring, avoiding danger lies in preparation, caution lies in being fearful of small matters, wisdom lies in governing large matters, removing harm lies in decisive action, gaining followers lies in taking care of subordinates. Explanation: the various principles that should be followed are consistency, adapting to the times, responding to affairs, managing morale, expressing intention, external embellishment, measuring, preparation, governing both small and large matters, decisive action, and taking care of people. Regret comes from suspicion, sin comes from slaughter, partiality comes from selfishness, negligence comes from ignorance of one's own mistakes, immeasurability comes from wasting the people's money. Blindness comes from hearing false reports, untruthfulness comes from rash action, Rigidity comes from neglecting the quality of things, disaster comes from pursuing profit, harm comes from favoring the unworthy, destruction comes from lacking a sense of responsibility, danger comes from not following orders. Explanation: different types of errors can occur in government, leading to a range of negative consequences. Chapter 8: Discussion of Military Affairs. An army should not attack a city without cause, nor kill an innocent person. Killing the father or elder brother of someone, seizing the wealth of others, or taking away the children of their servants and concubines, all of these are acts of robbery. Therefore, the military must punish those who break laws and commit injustice. The military should not use weapons and bloodshed, instead it should ensure peace and harmony throughout the land. Explanation: it is important to consider the principles of justice and morality in any military actions. It is crucial to maintain peace and harmony by avoiding unnecessary bloodshed and violence. 10,000 men for field army, 1,000 for defense, and 100 for logistics. Field army should not govern, defenders should not seek aid, and logistics should not seek resources. Explanation: the field army is a military force that is responsible for carrying out offensive operations, such as attacking the enemy's territory. The defense troops are responsible for protecting their own territory, and the logistics are responsible for providing the necessary supplies and equipment for the troops in the field. When a force of 10,000 is lacking in numbers for defense or attack, hiring mercenaries can provide support for both offensive and defensive operations. In situation where a force of 10,000 lacks 1,000 soldiers, hiring 100 mercenaries can fill the gap. Explanation: when a military force does not have enough troops, market forces can be used to supplement the lack of manpower. Mercenaries can fill the gap in both offensive and defensive operations. The purpose of executing people is to demonstrate military might. If the execution of one person causes the three armies to shake, then that person should be killed. If the execution of one person causes 10,000 people to rejoice, then execute him. It is more important to execute those who are higher ranking and less important to reward those who are lower ranking. Though the execution may be heavy, it must be carried out. This is punishing those above. As for rewarding cowherds, stable boys, and horse attendants, this is rewarding those below. One who can both punish those above and reward those below is a true leader, and that's why leaders are highly valued. Explanation: the use of punishment and reward are means of demonstrating military might and maintaining discipline within the ranks of the military. When a commander leads the army with drums and flags, faces danger and determines when to fight, takes up arms and confronts the enemy. If he beats the drums in the right way, he will be rewarded and made famous. But if the drums are not played correctly, then the commander will die and the country will perish. It is the commander who holds the key to survival or destruction. What would be more important than having a capable leader? Explanation: a capable commander is a key in ensuring the safety and success of a military force. The commander must have the skills and knowledge to lead the troops properly and make the right decisions in battle. Without such a commander, the country will be doomed. If drums are beaten and banners are raised, and soldiers are armed with spears and shields, I believe it is not difficult for the ruler to be successful in his military endeavors. The ancients said, if you attack without confusion and defend without hesitation, that is the mark of a good army. See without looking, hear without listening, and obtain goods from fields with no market. Markets deal all kinds of goods, where everything is purchased cheaply and sold dearly, limiting the people. Why is it that the people are hungry while the horses are fat? It is because the goods come from markets, but the merchants have no master. If one wishes to rule the state and fight a war, they must not rely on markets or its merchants. Explanation: in order to be successful in a war, one must have a disciplined and organized military force that is well equipped and trained. The lack of resources and food for the people can be attributed to the greed of merchants who exploit the markets by buying goods cheaply and selling them at high prices. This creates an imbalance of wealth and leads to poverty and hunger. Raising an army is like putting on armor and releasing a swarm of locusts, it will be used to your advantage. When birds of prey chase away the sparrows, they have the intention to attack people, they come out of nowhere, and they will be feared in the future. Explanation: this passage emphasizes the importance of having a strong military force. If a country has a powerful military, it will be respected and feared by others. The comparison to birds of prey and sparrows suggests that strength is necessary for survival. Tai Gongwang was 70 years old when he sang the song of slaughtering a bull and swore an oath at a river crossing. Despite his age, people were still not listening to him. Everyone called him a madman. But when he met King Wen, he was able to rally 30,000 people for a battle that unified the world. This could not have been accomplished without the wise counsel of the king. Thus it is said, a long journey can be traveled with a good horse and a whip, a world can be changed by a wise man and alliances. Explanation: the story emphasizes the importance of having a wise leader who is able to gather allies and make wise decisions. It also suggests that even though one may be old, they can still accomplish great things. King Wu led his army to conquer King Ju, crossing the border river with banners on the right and drums on the left. 300 soldiers lost their lives and 30,000 fought. King Ju's army was in the millions, with fierce fighters leading the way with spears and axes, and the line of battle stretched for 100 miles. King Wu ordered his soldiers not to shed blood, and miraculously defeated King Ju without causing mass bloodshed, proving the power of just and moral governance. Explanation: the story of King Wu of Ju teaches that proper management of people and resources is a key to success. Additionally, it is possible to succeed without resorting to violence or bloodshed. Divining the future, such as observing the changes of stars, wind, and clouds, may seem like a potential way for a commander to gain victory and merit. However, it is a difficult task, since a commander cannot control the heavens, the earth, or people. War is an act of violence and conflict goes against morality. A commander must accept death as a sacrifice when using violence is inevitable. Explanation: war is an act of violence and conflict, and goes against morality. The commander must bear his responsibility. No heaven above, no earth below, no master in the rear, no enemy in front. A single man's army is like a wolf, like a tiger, like a wind, like a rain, like lightning, like thunder, shaking and dark. The world is shocked. Explanation: a single person can be powerful enough to change the world. Victorious soldiers are like water, although it is weak, it can crash through mountains and hills. With the right strategies and tactics, a huge army will be unstoppable. Explanation: a single soldier may not be physically strong, but together and with the right strategies and tactics they will succeed. Why did Wu Qi, in his war against Qin, abandon his fertile and level fields and instead build simple and humble shelters to protect against frost and dew? It was a decision of a higher authority. When requesting someone's death, do not demand to be respected, nor blame people for not offering enough help. Therefore, the ancient warriors who wore armor and helmets did not bow to anyone, as they were not troubled or anxious. The idea of troubling people and yet wishing for their death, or exhausting their strength, has never been heard of in ancient times until now. Explanation: this illustrates Wu Qi's humility and respect for others. He does not take advantage of those who are weaker than him, and instead shows compassion and mercy. He also does not expect more from people than they can give. He serves as an example of how leaders should behave towards their subjects. When the commander is appointed, they forget their home, sleep in the military camp and forget their family. They hold up the drumsticks and beat the drums, forgetting their own body. When Wu Qi went to battle, his attendants followed him with swords. He said, "It is my duty to lead the flags and drums, to make decisions in times of danger and to command the troops and point out the enemy. It is not my duty to wield a sword." Explanation: the commander should focus on leading the troops and making important decisions, rather than engaging in battle themselves. When forming an army, first establish one main camp and then divide the remaining soldiers into 3 smaller camps, similar to how a river branches out. Observe the enemy's movements and tactics, and use their strengths and weaknesses to your advantage. When the enemy is dressed in white, use white clay for camouflage, and when they are dressed in red, use red ochre for camouflage. Explanation: an army should be divided into smaller camps for better control. Exploiting the enemy's weaknesses can give an advantage in battle, and camouflage can be a powerful tool, using colors of clay that match the enemy's uniform. When Wu Qi and Qin were at war, a soldier single-handedly defeated 2 opponents and returned with their heads. Wu Qi issued an order to execute him. The military officers remonstrated, saying, "He is a brave man, he should not be executed." Qi replied, "If he is brave, it is not by my command." He was executed. Explanation: this passage illustrates Wu Qi's belief that despite the bravery of his soldiers, they must follow orders or face punishment. It also shows that Wu Qi valued loyalty and discipline over individual acts of courage. Chapter 9, The Commander. Commanders are the managers of affairs, the masters of all things, and not partial to any individual. They have no preference for one person, so all things are regulated by them and commanded by them. Explanation: leaders should be impartial and fair in their decisions and treat all people equally. They have the power to regulate and command all things. A commander should not attempt to rescue a prisoner who is more than 5 steps away, even if the enemy is shooting at them. He should not pursue. Therefore, it's important to carefully assess the situation and make a clear judgment before taking action. Explanation: careful assessment before taking action. Interrogating a prisoner by whipping their backs, scorching their ribs, or squeezing their fingers is an incredibly cruel act. The scholars in this country cannot bear the cruelty of such methods, and yet they are still complicit in it. Explanation: although people may disagree with the use of brutal methods, they will accept them as necessary for maintaining order and justice. The saying goes, 1,000 pieces of gold cannot save someone from death, and 100 pieces of gold cannot spare them from punishment. Even if you have the wisdom of Yao and Shun, you cannot argue away a single word. Even if you have 10,000 pieces of gold, you cannot use a single coin. Explanation: this proverb is used to emphasize that money or excuses cannot be used to get out of any consequences. Nowadays, there are dozens in small prisons, hundreds in medium prisons, and thousands in large prisons. 10 people are associated with 100 people's affairs, 100 people with 1,000, and 1,000 with 10,000. They are connected by family and marriage, followed by acquaintances. Farmers are separated from their fields, merchants from their shops, and officials from their government offices. Such network of good citizens all become prisoners. The military strategy says, 100,000 soldiers cost 1,000 gold every day. Now, with 10,000 good people in prison, I believe it is dangerous, if the authorities cannot find a solution for this. Explanation: there is a high number of people being held in prisons and this is causing a negative impact on society. Chapter 10, Government. Officials are the main actors in affairs and the foundation of government. The system is responsible for dividing the responsibilities of the 4 classes of people and maintaining social order. Honors, ranks, wealth and status must be distinguished, they are the body of respect and inferiority. Explanation: a hierarchical structure is important in society. Punishing the wicked and rewarding the good, correcting and enforcing laws, is how to measure the wealth of the people. Equalizing land and water rights, levying taxes, and collecting tributes are the means of determining the standard of living. Employing skilled workers, preparing tools and equipment are the achievements of the artisans. Allocating land and blocking off strategic points, eliminating evil and prohibiting immorality, are the means to maintain order. Explanation: rewards and punishments are important for maintaining social order and justice. Different strategies and measures can be implemented by the government to ensure success. Enforcing the law and punishing the guilty is the duty of officials. Drafting and enforcing the law is the responsibility of the ruler. Clearly distinguishing the powers of ruler and subject, determining the importance of each position, is the authority of the ruler. Clearly rewarding and punishing, strictly enforcing laws, is the means to prevent corruption. Studying and opening passageways, and maintaining one road, is the key to governance. Explanation: this passage emphasizes the importance of maintaining law and order in a society, as well as the need to distinguish between authority figures and their subordinates. Downwards, orders must be transmitted and upwards, reports must be heard. Knowing the numbers of the country and using them wisely is the way to manage resources. Knowing the weaknesses of others is the way to strengthen oneself. Knowing the actions of others is the way to make decisive decisions. Explanation: this passage emphasizes the importance of communication between different levels of authority in order to understand the strength and weaknesses of the country. Separating the roles of civil and military officials is the duty of the king. Collecting taxes and providing food are the responsibility of the emperor. Sending emissaries and using spies without them knowing is the strategy of making fair decisions. Explanation: clear allocation of roles and responsibilities is important, as well as using intelligence gathering in the decision-making process. The vassals should observe the ritual of the Son of Heaven. The relationship between ruler and minister should be passed on from generation to generation and follow the commands of the king. When laws are changed or customs are not observed, when the king's virtuous deeds are violated, then rituals can be used to punish. If officials do not conduct affairs, if there is no reward from the ruler, if the people have no legal proceedings, if there is no commerce or trade, how can the king reach his goals? The king should clearly communicate his intentions and listen to the will of his subjects. Explanation: maintaining traditional relationships and customs between rulers and ministers is important, utilizing rituals to enforce these customs. Chapter 11: The Basics of Governing. To govern people, what is the most important? It is said, without 5 grains, there is nothing to fill the stomach, without silk and hemp, there is nothing to cover the body. Therefore, to fill the stomach there must be grains, and to cover the body there must be silk and hemp. The man should be in the field plowing, the woman should be at the loom weaving, and then the people will not have 2 jobs, and there will be savings. The man should not be carving or engraving, and the woman should not be embroidering or making adornments. Explanation: the key function of a government is to provide the basic necessities to the people. A successful government should prioritize providing food and clothing for its citizens, rather than focusing on luxury items. The citizens should be responsible for one job only. Wooden objects get soaked and metal objects rust. The wise person drinks and eats using simple objects made of earth and clay, without any extra cost. Nowadays, raw materials are not only used for their practical properties, but also for decorative purposes in clothing and ornaments. The nature of horses and oxen is to eat grass and drink water, yet grains and legumes are provided. This is failure to maintain the natural state of things, and it is appropriate to establish regulations for it. Explanation: using materials beyond their practical properties is a failure to maintain the natural state of things and should be regulated. In the spring and summer, men should work in the fields and women should practice weaving and sewing. In this way, people will not be burdened. But now, short clothing cannot cover their bodies and gruel cannot fill their stomachs, leading to a lack of governance. Explanation: if people are not able to adequately clothe themselves and feed themselves, it will lead to a lack of governance. In ancient times, the land was not overworked and the people were not lazy, so why were ancient people successful and why do we fail now? Now farmers are unable to complete their work in one day, and the weavers stop working and go hungry and cold. This is because the ancient system of governance is not followed anymore. Explanation: the ancient governance systems enabled people to work efficiently and without interruption, leading to more prosperous living conditions. A ruler should promote selflessness among the people. When the people are selfless, the whole world becomes one family. When people work together without selfish motives, they share both the struggles and successes together. If there are 10 children, not one morsel of food is added. If there is 1 child, not one morsel of food is taken away. How can one justify indulging in luxury and debauchery? Explanation: a ruler should promote selflessness among the people for unity and cooperation, and the indulgence in luxury and debauchery is unjustifiable and resources should be shared equally. When the people are frivolous and fickle, desires and conflicts will arise. When wealth and power are concentrated in the hands of a few individuals, the people's food and resources will be stored for private use, and punishment will be used to enforce the law if anyone breaks it. There will be no one left to consider the well-being of the people. Good governance enforces regulations that promote selflessness among the people, so that the lower classes will not dare to act selfishly, and there will be no one committing wrongs. Explanation: good governance promotes selflessness to prevent concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a few individuals. If one adheres to the original principles and follows the single path, then desires and conflicts will disappear, and prisons will be empty, fields will be full, and the people will live in peace and security. There will be no difficulties in the world outside, and no turmoil within. This is the ultimate form of governance. Explanation: adhering to original principles and following a singular path leads to a peaceful and secure society. The vastness of the sky is beyond comprehension. Who can be the ruler of emperors and kings? The past is unreachable, the future is uncertain, only seeking oneself is possible. Explanation: the only thing one can control and understand is oneself. The so-called Son of Heaven has 4 aspects: first, divine and wise; second, enlightening; third, spreading culture; fourth, invincible. These are the responsibilities of the emperor. Explanation: the Son of Heaven is a title given to Chinese emperors and monarchs throughout history. The four aspects symbolize the authority and power of the emperor. Nature should not be exploited, and random learnings do not make one a well-rounded scholar. Nowadays, people say 100 miles of ocean cannot quench one man's thirst, and a 3-foot spring can stop the thirst of 3 armies. Living without limits and restrictions leads to moral decay and chaos. Explanation: a caution against excessive consumption and the importance of balance and self-control in living. The highest level of governance is divine transformation, followed by natural causes, and the lowest level is to respect the people's time and resources. Restrictions must be enforced through military means and rewards must be given through culture and education. Explanation: governance should be guided by divine and natural principles, respect people's resources, enforced by military means, and rewarded through culture and education. Chapter 12: Army Forces. According to military strategy, leadership of 1,000 people is based on authority, while leadership of 10,000 people is based on force. When one acts first with authority, the enemy will be unable to resist. When one acts first with force, the enemy will have no power to fight back. Therefore, victory in battle depends upon who strikes first. If we advance, they will retreat, and if they attack, we will withdraw. This is the principle of warfare. Explanation: whoever strikes first has the advantage, regardless of the size of the units. He who is sincere in his faith will be favored by the gods, and he who wields power must adhere to ethical principles. What is present may vanish, and what is absent may appear. Ultimately it is up to one's beliefs. Explanation: those who are sincere in their faith and adhere to ethical principles will be favored by the gods. The ancient kings passed down the belief that by appointing officials who are honest, fair, and compassionate, punishment would not be required. Therefore, those who understand this principle first strive to avoid the pitfalls of ignorance and focus on potential for success. Those who advance recklessly and seek battle will find their opponents also looking to avoid defeat, and in doing so, the enemy will gain the upper hand. Therefore, the art of war states, seek and follow, observe and learn. A commander who does not dare to take the offensive will surely lose. Explanation: in order to succeed, one should focus on avoiding ignorance and strive for success, instead of rushing into battles which might lead to defeat. As per the principles of war, one should seek, follow, observe and learn, and avoid being overconfident which might lead to loss of power. Using force is morally questionable. A leader who is easily scared will not be able to maintain control. Loss in battle will lead to a loss of motivation among soldiers. When advancing, do so confidently and without hesitation. Once you have captured an enemy position, quickly secure and expand it. By maintaining a clear vision and holding a strategic position, you will command respect. This is the ultimate in military strategy. Explanation: a successful military strategy involves being able to read the situation and the enemy accurately, and taking advantage of any weaknesses in order to achieve victory. It also emphasizes the importance of being decisive and not allowing fear to get in the way of success. The enemy's words are insincere and deceitful, their actions are undisciplined and chaotic. The army is in disarray due to natural disasters. It is crucial to address the vulnerabilities, eliminate the dangers, and make strategic decisions with intelligence. Explanation: it is crucial to address weaknesses and dangers, and make strategic decisions with intelligence. By elevating the importance of religious and cultural institutions, emphasizing the weight of official responsibilities, and being strict with those who overstep their bounds, enemy nations can be subdued without resorting to war. Explanation: by strong culture and government, even enemy nations can be subdued. Chapter 13: Severe Offenses. A commander who leads an army of more than 1,000 and retreats in battle or surrenders to the enemy, abandoning his troops and fleeing, is called a traitor of the nation. Such a person will be punished by death, his family tomb will be destroyed and bones displayed publicly, his land and property taken, men and women of the family enslaved. A commander who leads an army of more than 100 and retreats in battle or surrenders to the enemy, abandoning his troops and fleeing, is called a traitor of the army. Such a person will be punished by death, his house will be destroyed and his family will be enslaved. By instilling fear of severe punishment in the people, the enemy's strength will be diminished. Explanation: when a military force retreats or surrenders, it is considered treasonous and is punished severely. The aim of this harsh punishment is to deter further acts of treason and weaken the enemy. Therefore, the ancient kings placed emphasis on establishing systems and institutions before all else, and only later on strict punishments. If punishments are severe, then people will be in awe and respect, and if people are in awe, then the nation will be peaceful. Explanation: a strong legal system is needed to maintain social order and stability. Chapter 14: Military Command. In the military, a group of 5 forms a squad for mutual protection. A group of 10 forms a section for mutual protection. A group of 50 forms a platoon for mutual protection. A group of 100 forms a company for mutual protection. Explanation: military units are structured in groups of increasing sizes. If someone in a military unit commits an offense, it is the responsibility of the other members to report it. If reported, the unit will be exonerated from guilt. However, if someone knows and chooses not to report it, then the entire unit will be punished. The same rule applies to households, villages, and companies. Explanation: it is the responsibility of group members to report any violations of regulations. Failure to do so will result in the entire group being punished. Officers from the rank of squad leader and above, including all levels of commanders, should protect one another. If one of them has knowledge of a fellow officer committing a violation and does not report it, he will be held accountable for the same offense. Explanation: officers at all levels should protect one another, but if an officer fails to report a violation committed by a fellow officer, he will be held accountable for the same offense. When husbands and wives are united, and superiors and subjects are connected, there is no adultery that cannot be exposed and no crime that cannot be revealed. Fathers cannot conceal their sons' mistakes, older brothers cannot conceal their younger brothers' mistakes. Even more so when people of the same community gather and eat together, how can one conceal their faults when they are exposed? Explanation: a strong community bond makes it difficult to conceal wrongdoings and promotes transparency and accountability. Chapter 15: Organizing sections. Central Army, left, right, front and rear armies, all had their separate territories, demarcated by trenches, with no communication between them. Each commander, leader, and subordinate had their own designated area and had clear orders that no one could enter without permission. If someone did enter without permit, the commander would be punished and any subordinates who disobeyed would also be held accountable. Explanation: the soldiers are divided into several sections, each with its own commander, leader, and subordinates, with clear orders and no communication between them, and anyone entering without permission would be punished. Troops are organized horizontally and vertically by 120 steps, measuring both people and land. The soldiers are organized in straight lines and access is restricted to designated paths. Those who collect firewood and graze cattle must be part of a group, and those who are not in a group will not be allowed to pass. Officials and soldiers who lack discipline, or who cross into prohibited areas, will be executed. This way there is no violation within, and no conspiracy outside. Explanation: the military is organized by strict measures of distance and discipline, with clear boundaries and severe consequences for disobedience, in order to maintain order and prevent any violations or conspiracies. Chapter 16: Military Regulations. The order for forming squads is as follows: 5 people form a squad, sharing one flag, which are collected by the commanders and officers. Those who lose their flag but manage to regain it will be punished. Those who acquire a flag without losing one will be rewarded. Those who lose their flag and are unable to regain it will face death and destruction of their family. Those who lose their squad leader but manage to regain him will be punished. Those who capture a squad leader without losing one will be rewarded. Those who lose their squad leader and are unable to regain him will be beheaded. Those who lose their commander but manage to regain him will be punished. Those who capture a commander without losing one will be rewarded. Those who lose their commander and are unable to regain him will be forced to flee and hide. Explanation: the rules and consequences for maintaining control over flags, squad leaders, and commanders of a military squad, where losing them results in severe punishment and acquiring them from the enemy results in rewards. The method of wartime punishment is as follows: a leader of 10 people can be executed by a leader of 100, a leader of 100 can be executed by a commander of 1,000, and a commander of 1,000 can be executed by a commander of 10,000. The generals of left and right armies can execute the commander of 10,000, and the Grand General may execute anyone. Explanation: The wartime system of punishments for military personnel states that those with higher ranks have the power to punish those beneath them. Chapter 17, Military Order. The soldiers are divided into 3 divisions according to the military order. The left army wears a dark banner and dark feathers. The right army wears a white banner and white feathers. The middle army wears a yellow banner and yellow feathers. The soldiers have 5 badges. The first line wears a dark badge, the second line wears a red badge, the third line wears a yellow badge, the fourth line wears a white badge, and the fifth line wears a black badge. Explanation: the organization of the Chinese military forces. Soldiers are divided into 3 divisions identified by the color of their banners, feathers, and 5 types of badges. When a soldier is sentenced to death, the criminal will be punished and his or her body will be arranged by the battle line. In the first row, a plaque will be placed on the forehead. In the second row, a plaque will be placed on the neck. In the third row, a plaque will be placed on the chest. In the fourth row, a plaque will be placed on the abdomen, and in the fifth row, a plaque will be placed on the waist. In this way, the officers will not be different from the common soldiers, and the common soldiers will not be different from the officers, and anyone who sees an offense but does not report it, or sees chaos but does not stop it, will be held accountable for their crime. Explanation: the battle formation is maintained even when a soldier is sentenced to death. Anyone who fails to report or intervene in any offenses or chaos will also be held responsible. Drums are used to signal movement in battle, with the front line advancing and the rear line falling back. Those who advance beyond 5 steps are rewarded, while those who fall back beyond 5 steps are punished. This demonstrates the importance of timing and coordination in the actions of officers and soldiers. The saying, when the drums sound, it is like thunder, and when they move, it is like wind and rain. No one dare stand before them, no one dare lag behind, highlights the power and authority of the drums in battle. It is a principle that is well grounded in reason. Explanation: drums were used to signal movement in battle. This was done to ensure that officers and soldiers could move quickly and efficiently. This emphasizes the importance of following orders and not lagging behind. Chapter 18, Orders for Soldiers. The 4 instruments of gongs, drums, bells, and flags each have their own purpose. Drums indicate advancement and heavy drums signal attack. Gongs indicate a halt and heavy gongs signal retreat. Bells are used to convey orders. Flags on the left of the banner indicate left, flags on the right indicate right. If the enemy uses unconventional tactics, we will respond in like. Explanation: gongs, drums, bells, and flags are used in military signaling, conveying orders and indicating direction. 1 drum beat to the left, 1 drum beat to the right. 1 step for each drum beat, this is step drum. 10 beats per beat of an acceleration drum. Drum beat is continuous, bigger drums directing the smaller. The largest for the general, the smallest drums for the squad leaders, the ones in between for commanders. When all 3 drums beat together, the hearts of the leader, commander, and general are unified. The special troops have signals of their own. Explanation: the drums were used to issue commands for various formations and movements. When all drums beat together, the hearts of the officers are unified. If drummer does not properly hit the drum, he will be punished. If there is too much noise, drummers will be punished. Those who do not listen to the sound of the drums, bells, and gongs will also be punished. Explanation: any failure to convey or to obey the commands given via the instruments would result in punishment. Train 100 people and have them practice a battle formation. When they are proficient, gather them into 1,000. Train 1,000 and then have them form 10,000. With the 10,000, train them to form 3 armies. The troops of these 3 armies can be divided and combined as needed, and they will be able to execute large-scale battles. After they are trained and tested, they should be reviewed. Explanation: train a small group of soldiers, then gradually increase their numbers as they improve in proficiency and form battle formations, eventually leading to the ability to execute large-scale battles after proper training. Victory can be achieved through various tactics, rectangular and round formations, adapting to changing circumstances, and facing unexpected situations. The enemy should be relentlessly pursued, even in rugged and treacherous terrain, as if searching for a lost child. With unwavering determination, we can defeat the enemy and seize control of their fate. Explanation: victory can be achieved through various tactics, relentlessly pursuing the enemy and seizing control of their fate. It is important to make a decisive plan before battle, as a lack of planning and quick decision-making can lead to uncertain advances and retreats, resulting in defeat. Thus, regular forces are important for the initial strike, and irregular forces are important for the later stages. Whether used first or last, these forces serve to control the enemy. Leaders who do not understand tactics and rely solely on bravery will always fail. Explanation: pre-planning is crucial for victory. Regular forces should be used for initial strikes, followed by irregular forces, and those who don't understand tactics will always fail. The results may be unpredictable, but the actions must be taken without hesitation. The plan should be executed, adjusted to the circumstances if necessary. Delays and modifications should not render the plan ineffective. These three form the core of the burdens of war. Explanation: doubts in execution and changing the plan completely in the middle of execution are costly in battle. Chapter 19: Protocol for assigning a general. When a general is assigned, the ruler must issue the order in the palace in front of the court. In the ceremony, the ruler will give the general an axe and a club, saying, "The left, right, and middle armies all have their own duties. If anyone exceeds their authority and requests to do something, they will be put to death. There can be no two orders: those who disobey orders will be executed, those who retain orders will be executed, and those who lose orders will be executed." Explanation: a general is given an order by the ruler in a ceremony and is given an axe and a club, and is warned that disobedience will result in execution. The general will respond, "Outside the city gates, I will set up a fortified camp with watchtowers, and wait for orders. If the appointed time passes, then enforce the law." Explanation: the ceremony continues with the general responding that he will set up a fortified camp outside the city gates. When the general enters the camp, he immediately closes the gates and clears the path. Anyone who dares to act against him, dares to speak out, or dares to disobey orders will be executed. Explanation: the general establishes strict discipline in the camp, with severe punishment for disobedience or insubordination. Chapter 20: The Rear Army. The term rear army refers to a military unit that follows 100 miles behind the main army. They are stationed at a designated meeting point where they wait for 3 days with rations. The vanguard army moves forward first, and the rear guard follows to provide support during battle. This is known as the advance force. Explanation: the rear army is a support unit that follows behind the main army, stationed at a designated meeting point with rations for 3 days, providing support during battle for the advance force. The advance force moves ahead of the rear guard. When the vanguard army is ready, the rear army moves out, traveling twice the distance of the main army and 100 miles ahead of the new rear army. They wait at a designated meeting place for 6 days on rations, preparing for battle, and occupy key positions. If the battle is won, they pursue the enemy and push forward. The rear army executes any soldier who try to retreat. The soldiers led by the various generals, known as the Four Corners, will be victorious. Explanation: the strategy is to advance with half of the forces at a time and secure the rear with the other half. Military has 5 responsibilities: positioning, dividing and concentrating forces, securing key fortifications and outposts, and timing of actions. When war commences, all must work in concert. The main army must be well equipped and provisioned on a daily basis, as logistics are essential for effective movement of troops when commanded. Explanation: the key responsibilities during war include positioning of the forces, securing strategic locations, timing of the actions, and logistics. Whoever is appointed as a commander-in-chief, he should raise an army and march with the main army inside the Four Corners. In this way the soldiers within the Four Corners are under control. Officials in good standing are appointed by royal decree to bear the seal and staff of a general. Anyone who moves without authorization will be executed. When the war begins, officials in charge should cooperate and coordinate with each other. Internal stability has to be established before going to war. Explanation: an effective commander-in-chief raises an army, establishes control and internal stability before going to war, and appoints trustworthy officials. Chapter 21: Military Education. In military training, soldiers will be divided into camps and stationed in specific locations. Any soldiers who move without orders will be punished for violating military code. Soldiers must follow their training for moving forward, backward, left, and right. The training must be followed by all soldiers, and the top 5 soldiers in each camp will be rewarded. Anyone who does not follow the training will be punished. Those who inform on their comrades will be excused from punishment. Explanation: military training involves dividing soldiers into camps, enforcing discipline through rewarding top performers and punishment for disobedience. Whenever a squad is deployed, if one person does not engage in battle and dies at the hands of the enemy, the squad leader will be punished for violating military laws. Similarly, if a section of 10 loses one person and the remaining 9 do not fight to the death against the enemy, the section leader will be punished for violating military code. From the top of the hierarchy to the lower ranks, if anyone does not follow the regulations, the officers will be punished as if they had violated the laws themselves. Explanation: those who fail to adhere to the laws and regulations of the military will be punished, and those responsible for teaching and leading the troops will also face punishment for any failure on the part of their troops. All cases of punishment, rewards, and encouragement must be based on military regulations. The generals will carry different banners, and the soldiers will wear different badges. The left army badges will be worn on the left shoulder, the right army badges will be worn on the right shoulder, and the central army badges will be worn on the chest. The badges will display the soldier's name and rank. The vanguard and rear armies will be divided into 5 lines, with highest rank at the front, and lower ranks following. Explanation: the soldiers will wear different badges to distinguish their rank and position, with vanguard and rear armies divided into 5 lines with highest rank at the front. The squad leader teaches his 4 men using boards as drums, tiles as cymbals, and poles as flags. He beats the drums to advance, lowers the flags to hurry, and beats the cymbals to retreat. He signals left and right turns by hitting the cymbals and drums together while sitting down. Explanation: the squad leader teaches his men the commands given with the instruments. The squad leader then passes on the training to the platoon leader, then to the company leader, then to the lieutenant, then to the captain, then to the major, and finally to the general. The general reviews the troops and arranges them on a plain, setting the formation 300 steps away. When the battle drill starts, they break from the starting position and make the decisive move within 100 steps. They charge forward 100 steps and retreat 100 steps. They practice battle tactics to hone their skills, and are rewarded or punished accordingly. Explanation: this passage outlines a clear chain of command and the process for training and practicing battle tactics. From the rank of lieutenant to the lower ranks, all will have flags. Those who win flags in battle will be able to see the ranks they have obtained, to make clear the intention of rewards and encouragement. Explanation: officers carry flags, capturing them in battle results in rewards and encouragement. Victory in battle depends on establishing authority, which requires exerting force and just punishment balanced by clear rewards. It is possible to make the people obey the rules and regulations of the state, to make them distinguish between death and life, to teach them to die without hesitation. To make the defenders strong and the attackers fierce, to prevent the occurrence of treacherous plots and seditious talk among the people, to make them follow the commands of their superiors without hesitation and without any change, so that their movements are like those of one body, with the weak as strong as a thunderbolt and the strong as nimble as a startled deer. To reward and punish according to merit, to be as clear as white and black, to make the people obey the commands of their superiors as if they were the 4 limbs in obedience to the heart. Explanation: obeying laws and regulations, and clearly defining rewards and punishments, is crucial for gaining the loyalty of the people and achieving successful governance. The army is arranged in an orderly manner and can easily break through strong enemy defenses. This is known as military training. With this, the borders can be expanded, the country and its grain storage can be protected, dangers and harms can be eliminated, thus achieving martial virtues. Explanation: a well-organized military with the ability to break through strong defenses is important for the success of the state. Chapter 22, Military Strategy. I have heard that the ruler has a certain way of ensuring victory, so he can manage both large and small states with one system. This will give him power over the world in 12 ways. Explanation: there are 12 ways for the ruler to ensure success and gain power to manage both large and small states. One is called connected punishments, meaning that those who committed the same crime will be punished together. 2 is called ground prohibition, which prohibits people from traveling in order to prevent adultery. 3 is called united force, means that soldiers and their leader should be united, in order to strengthen their alliance. 4 is called opening passes, meaning to divide the land and set limits, each person takes responsibility and firmly guards it. 5 is called division and restriction, which means facing the front and back lines outwards, securing both left and right flanks by dividing the rest and securing the fortification with carts and chariots in order to control and stop the enemy. 6 is called distinction by number, which means that the front line must advance independently and no one else can compete for the lead. 7 is called 5 chapters, which means a clear formation without confusion. 8 is called complete curve, which means different troop sections bending and turning together. 9 is called golden drum, which means celebrating achievements and rewarding virtue. 10 is called array of vehicles, which means aligning the front spears and blocking the enemy's view of sight with horses. 11 is called dead soldiers, which means knowledgeable and capable troops ride on war chariots, crossing and traversing, and launching surprise attacks on the enemy. 12 is called strong soldiers, which means that after completing the whole curve, they do not move without orders. Explanation: the passage lists and describes various military strategies, including connected punishments, ground prohibition, united force, opening passes, division and restriction, distinction by number, 5 chapters, complete curve, golden drum, array of vehicles, dead soldiers, and strong soldiers. These 12 teachings, if followed, will bring great success. Weak soldiers can become strong, humble leaders can become respected, and bad laws can be improved. The people can be united, the masses can be governed, and large territories can be defended. A nation's power can spread far and wide without having to leave its walls or equip its army. Explanation: following these 12 teachings will bring success, improving weak soldiers, respected leaders, and bad laws, uniting the people, governing the masses, and defending large territories, and spreading the nation's power. There are 5 qualities of a soldier: forgetting one's home, forgetting one's family, forgetting one's own safety while facing the enemy, dying for victory if necessary, and striving for success. Explanation: soldiers must be willing to make sacrifices and have a strong sense of duty in order to succeed. 100 men with blades charge forward to cause disorder in the enemy's formation. 1,000 men with blades capture and kill the enemy commander. 10,000 men with blades dominate the world. Explanation: with a large enough force, one can conquer the world. King Wu asked Tai Gong Wang, "How can I effectively utilize the talents of my people with minimal effort?" Tai Gong Wang replied, "Offer rewards abundantly and mete out punishments severely. Avoid excesses at the highest level and address deficiencies at the lower levels, so that people cannot find fault with you. Those who request not to be punished or rewarded should be put to death. When attacking a kingdom, identify its vulnerabilities, demonstrate wealth to expose their poverty, and reveal corruption to expose their weaknesses. Maintain harmony between the upper and lower classes, this is the key to exploiting the weaknesses of a state." Explanation: be generous with rewards and strict with punishments, avoid excesses at the highest level and address deficiencies at the lower levels, and keep the upper and lower classes in harmony to exploit the weaknesses of a state. Before raising an army, one must assess the strengths and weaknesses of both the enemy and one's own forces, and plan accordingly. Ensure the army is well equipped, has sufficient supplies, and has planned routes of entry and exit. Only then can it successfully enter hostile territory and quell rebellion. Explanation: proper planning is essential in raising an army and quelling rebellion. When the land is vast but the city is small, take control of the land first. When the city is large but narrow, attack the city first. When the land is wide but the population is small, isolate them. When the land is narrow but the population is large, build a large defense wall to deal with them. Without losing its benefits, without wasting time, change the government and simplify the processes. Correcting shortcomings is sufficient for governing the world. Explanation: in order to effectively govern, make changes to the government and processes while avoiding loss of benefits and wasted time. Currently, during the warring states period, the rulers are constantly attacking each other, but the wars lack moral principles. Without a unified command, the forces are divided, and this lack of unity has destabilized people's hearts, leading to arrogance and disputes among the population. The officials are overwhelmed with work, leading to exhaustion and failure. At the end of the day, those who returned from distant battles were discouraged, Easily defeated as the generals and officers were selfish, focused on personal gain rather than the greater good. Explanation: during the Warring States period, 475–21 BC, constant attacks between rulers conducted without any moral principles caused divisions among forces, leading to instability and disputes. When the enemy is weak, the fortifications are low, and the army is in turmoil, they can be attacked head-on. When the enemy is strong, the fortifications are high, but the army is fearful, they can be besieged. When laying siege, it is important to take advantage of any opportunities to weaken the enemy, eventually leading to their starvation. The enemy army should be startled by night attacks and they will lose the initiative. When waiting for help in a prolonged battle, morale will be damaged and focus lost. Damaged morale leads to defeat in battle and poor strategy leads to defeat in war. Explanation: in warfare, it is important to take advantage of opportunities to weaken the enemy and maintain high morale. Chapter 23, Military Command Structures. War is an act of defiance against virtue and soldiers are instruments of violence. Every action must have a purpose, therefore the ruler wages war to stop violence, and the foundation for this is righteousness. In a state of war, one must establish power, resist the enemy and seek allies, without neglecting military forces. Explanation: war is a necessary but violent act for a ruler to establish righteousness and power. Soldiers use military might as a tool, and culture as a foundation. Military might is the exterior, while culture is the interior. One who can judge between these two can understand victory and defeat. Culture allows one to understand the benefits and harms, and distinguish between safety and danger. Military might allows one to attack and defend against powerful enemies. Explanation: soldiers use both military might and culture as tools for understanding victory and defeat, and for attacking and defending against powerful enemies. Focus on one strategy and you will win, disperse and you will lose. Secure your position with secrecy, and reach your goal with openness. If the soldiers fear the commander more than they fear the enemy, they will win. If they fear the enemy more than the commander, they will lose. Therefore, to know victory or defeat, compare the commander to the enemy, as it is a balance between the two. Peace brings order, rashness and impulsiveness lead to chaos. Explanation: focus on one strategy, balance secrecy and openness, and have soldiers fear the commander more than the enemy. The regular order of the army is to march in formation, to keep the ranks orderly and to have a proper sequence of advance and retreat. These regulations are not only for attacking cities and towns, but also for maintaining order and discipline. Without proper discipline, the formation will be lost and the troops will be vulnerable to confusion and defeat. Explanation: set rules and procedures need to be followed in order to maintain control and discipline. The army is always facing the enemy, with some facing inward, some facing outward, some standing and some sitting. The inward deployments are for the purpose of protecting the center, the outward deployments are for the purpose of preparing for external threats, standing deployments are for the purpose of advancing, and sitting deployments are for the purpose of holding position. The sitting formation should be armed with swords and axes, and the standing formation with spears and crossbows, with the commander in the middle. Explanation: proper troop deployment, armament, and leadership are crucial for effectively facing an enemy. Those who are skilled at defending against the enemy must first unite their forces and then rally them. This is the surest way to win. Punishments and rewards should be given for accomplishments and violations of orders. Life and death should be determined by the commander's decisions. Even if there are skilled soldiers in the world, none can stand up to this. Explanation: the key to victory and defending against the enemy is to unite and motivate regular troops, using proper equipment and military discipline with rewards for good performance and strict consequences for breaking rules. Before arrows are shot and swords are drawn, the front is called open and back solid. Those in between are secret. These formations are the body of the military. Explanation: before the battle the front is kept open, back solid, and middle secret. Chapter 24, Leading the Troops. Troops are deployed in advance as a defense, 3 to 5 miles away from the border. Upon receiving information of the mobilization of the main army for war, all movement is prohibited in order to maintain internal security. Explanation: a military strategy where troops are deployed in advance as a defense, close to the border and movement is restricted during mobilization. The troops who are deployed are given drums and armor by the commanding officer. On the day of departure, any officers, or those who have been sent to other counties and borders will stay behind in garrison in accordance with the regulations for rear sentries. If a soldier on sentry duty does not return after a year, he shall be considered as a deserter. If his parents, wife, or children know of his desertion and do not report it, they shall be punished along with him. If they do not know, they shall be pardoned. Explanation: when troops are deployed, a part stays garrisoned as sentries. If a soldier deserts and returns home within a day, his parents, wife, or children will be held accountable if they fail to report or capture him. If they are aware of the desertion and do not inform authorities, they will also be punished. Explanation: the family members of a deserter are also considered guilty of the same crime. This illustrates the importance of loyalty and discipline in military, as well as the consequences of desertion. If a commanding officer is killed in battle or if a soldier deserts and flees from battle, the punishment is execution. If a commanding officer abandons his troops and flees before battle, and if another officer is able to capture and kill him, he will be rewarded. Soldiers who do not show any merit in battle will be sent to guard duty for 3 years. Explanation: soldiers who desert, flee, or fail to show merit in battle are punished and officers who capture deserters are rewarded. In a major battle, if the commanding officer dies and his subordinates, including officers, fail to kill at least 500 enemy soldiers, they will face execution. Additionally, the officer's close aides and bodyguards will also be executed. Soldiers who have performed well in battle will be demoted 1 rank. Those who do not show any merit in battle will be sent to guard duty for 3 years. Explanation: in a major battle, if the commanding officer dies, his subordinates, including officers, must kill at least 500 enemy soldiers to avoid execution. If a soldier is killed in battle and his squad is unable to avenge his death, the entire squad will suffer the same fate. If the squad is able to retrieve the corpse of the fallen, their crimes will be forgiven. Explanation: no one is left behind. The advantages and disadvantages of the military are reflected in the reputation and actual strength of the country. Reputation lies in the hands of officials, but actual strength lies in the hands of the soldiers. If officials cannot achieve their goals and the soldiers cannot maintain their reputation, the army will be unable to defend the country from enemies or protect the country from within. This is how the military can become ineffective and how the power is lost. Explanation: if the military does not have a good reputation or actual strength, it will not be able to effectively defend the country or repel enemies. The deserters who return to the army, along with the soldiers and officials in their squad, are punished by being put on reduced rations. While these deserters have the reputation of being in the army, they do not live up to their responsibilities. With the country's empty coffers and the people exhausted from taxation, how can we avoid disaster of desertion? Explanation: deserters who return to the army are punished with reduced rations. Desertions is an issue for the country's finances. Today, using laws to prevent desertion and banning deserters from the army is one way to achieve victory in battle. Another way is to foster cohesion and mutual support among soldiers and officers, especially during battle. A third way is through effective leadership, where commanders establish authority, soldiers maintain discipline, and both offense and defense are executed successfully. Implementing these 3 strategies would lead to victory. Explanation: using laws to prevent desertion, fostering cohesion among soldiers and officers, and effective leadership are 3 strategies that can lead to victory in battle. I have heard that in ancient times, those who were good at using military forces could kill half of the enemy soldiers and officers, then 13 of the rest, even 11% more. Killing half would instill fear across the land, killing 13 more would bring the support of the rulers, killing the 11 would make the troops forever obedient. Therefore it is said, a million soldiers without proper leadership is not as good as 10,000 fighting with discipline. And 10,000 fighting with discipline is not as good as 100 fighting with determination. Explanation: using fewer forces with more discipline and motivation can be more effective than having a large number of troops without any direction. This emphasizes the importance of having strong leadership and clear orders for an army to be successful. Reward like the sun and moon, trust like the 4 seasons, command like an axe and chisel, control like a general and commander. Never listen to anyone who does not obey orders.